With the latest season of Rainbow Six Siege bringing the final big changes to Solis, we're going to do a video today breaking down how she now works, so you guys can hopefully jump into the new season and still kick ass with her. So first off, the center HUD element is now the only place where gadgets will show up. Anything leaving that space will disappear from view. And also the gadgets themselves will no longer be identified by default. Instead, she now has an overclock mode, and this does a few different things. First of all, it refills the energy for her gadget, so when used at the right time, it can actually double how long you can have the gadget on for. And in total, she can use this overclock mode 3 times per round, with one being usable immediately after the preparation phase ends, and the other 2 charges will be applied throughout the round. And this is of course different to what it is right now, because at the moment you will do a scan. This will result in the gadgets being pinged that are visible to you and your gadget is switched off. In the new version, you can actually individually ping things like IQ can, and even the unidentified stuff you can ping. And then you can use your scan and then ping stuff too, and it'll be identified to your teammates. But this is absolutely awesome because of course it means you can pass on information at any moment without switching your gadget on, which is really handy. And that means you can ping all day long with this. And this means Solis is still the queen of doing runouts, because even though you have to overclock to identify objects, it's quite easy to identify what is a claymore under a window or stuff like that, and then do the runout to take them out. So yeah, she's still absolutely brilliant at this job. Now let's move on to what has changed for the attackers. So when she has identified you as a player, let's say Blitz here running around with his shield, and she knows he's there, even with her overclock, Blitz has no idea he's being seen. However, if he was to jump into his drone and she overclocks and identifies that drone's location, it will give this little HUD element, letting players know that that drone has been spotted while Solis is using her overclock. It will not do it when it is off, and of course when the duration of that overclock ends, the HUD element will disappear. So this will give attackers a little bit of information on where Solis is, because she has to be in a certain radius of that gadget to be seeing it. And of course it means that that gadget's position has potentially been compromised, which might mean you want to move it somewhere else. But if you're up against a highly skilled Solis player who doesn't need to use the overclock and can pretty much guess what gadgets they are seeing, then this HUD element may never show up in a game for you. And it could be that really the overclock might be used mostly just to identify and make sure that you're looking at the diffuser. Now let's go over what has stayed the same. So first of all, her detection range, that is 12 meters. So she'll see gadgets 12 meters away from herself. And just like before, she can only see observation tools that are currently active. That means there is a player or a dead player on that drone viewing through it at that time for her to spot it. And then of course, when it comes to the gadget interaction with other stuff, like say Blitz running around, she's always going to be able to see that as they move around the map. Now let's talk conclusion. So overall, I think these changes are relatively okay. There's nothing actually terrible about this, and I think it negates a couple of the earlier nerfs we had last season. But certainly the changes to Solis over the last 2 seasons have felt very jarring. She originally came out in 2022, and it has taken a very long time to bring the changes we now see in the game, and some of them seem like they could have been brought in the first couple of months of her being out, like simply switching her gadget off during the preparation phase. But overall, the Solis we now have in her final form, I think is pretty decent. Now, I don't think she's going to do too much in her balancing graph. So if we take a look at the PC graph here, I think this is where she'll move to next season. And this is the console graph. I think this is how she's going to move on that. Overall, I don't expect much, but I think there will be an improvement. And I also think this gives me a glimmer of hope that she might be able to get her impact grenades back in the future. But overall, I think this Solis is different from what she was at launch. I think she plays differently and should be played differently in order to actually be good with her. If you try to play her like she was at launch, you're going to do very badly. But overall, the biggest thing here is the ability to ping any gadget you are seeing, and the overclock actually increases your gadget duration rather than switching it off in the old version. And although you might be pinging unidentified gadgets most of the time, I think there's going to be a good chance that you can figure out what they are just based on their position or movement. So to me, this is not a doom and gloom situation with Solis. I think she is improved over last season, but we'll definitely have to see a full season to see where she ends up and if players can adjust to this new setup. And hopefully this has also been a learning experience for the developers, where they can maybe come in a little bit earlier with just 1 or 2 simple things to tone them down until they can get to these bigger overall changes later down the road. Anyway guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.